Okay, guys, welcome back to another edition of Sal Cosentino's um, training session, how to become a professional IT uh, with myself, in production by INC Squared. I'm your systems architect and trainer, future MCT trainer. Out for you here. Okay, so this is VMware uh, ESXi, right? We're going to be installing that as well. We'll be installing that together as a hypervisor. We've already spoke about the two hypervisors and what the two hypervisors are and the differences between them. Um, right. So in this instance, we're going to be using a, hypervisor 2. And again, my name here is systems architect and future CT trader. Wow. Valentino. Okay, so thanks for taking this for watching this video. If you clicked on it, I appreciate it. Just make that right there. Okay, so there you go. All right, so I want to thank you for joining today's class. I'm going to start off by taking out a diagram here, and actually, before we do that, I just want to explain the course introduction here with VMware. There's a course if you guys are willing to take it or you're wanting to take the exam. It's the vSphere 7.0 install, configure, and manage. Yes, we are on version 8, but courses are still available for 7. A lot of companies are still using version 6 to 7, um, in their environments, right? So take advantage of this and learn the different things about it. So as a vSphere administrator, you're required knowledge about the vSphere components and resources and how they work together in your environment. So uh, you also require practical skills in installing and deploying and managing these components and resources. So if you have these environments in your company, again, our ESXi's, our hypervisors, by developing your knowledge and skills, you can definitely build. And today we are going to build and run a highly scalable virtual infrastructure with me today. So if you guys are thinking about taking the courses, right, the certification overviews, these are the different overviews for the VCP administration in terms of technology tracking and how you want to go ahead and move up in here. There's different levels, so start off at the bottom and kind of work your way up. If you've already done your VCA, again, perfect, great. You can now more than welcome to move on to your VCP and how to administer these devices, right? So there's a high demand, especially in these kind of courses. So being able to learn, and these are the digital emblems. So again, there's a lot that you want to learn in terms of how to set it up and whatnot. I'll show you guys how to do that quickly. In my environment, we're just going to use 2 VMs. I'm just going to do it quickly, but in a real scenario where I want to train, I offer courses on this stuff too. I use 4 to 5 machines in this course. So we're going to be architecting a 2 VM machine and connecting it to my ESXi hypervisor. I've done this many times. So if I'm drawing it out here, and actually, you know what? Let me take this picture here. Let me take this picture a little bit bigger here, and let me put that in paint. So if I'm drawing it out, right? Let's zoom out here. I'm gonna try to use this. So if I'm drawing it out, right? I typically want to use these 2 environments, right? So I want to be able to use these 2 environments, right? And again, I'm going to just give me 1 second. I'm gonna fill that. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker. Use my green, and I'm gonna give it a little thicker weight here. Um, so again, right, as you can see, I'm going to be using these two machines. I have my DC already created, and I have my ESXi machines here. So again, I'll be using these machines. I've already installed it. If you haven't installed it, choose a Windows server of your choice, right? And make sure you have your physical disks and your network physical NIC cards when you're designing these, right? So if you have a 16 gigabit laptop, again, I've showed you here in red on how to do it. When we're installing our vCenter here, we're not going to be installing this today, but when we do install it, so again, when we're designing our machines, again, note that we start off with 8 gigs, right? And then we make our way down to 2 gigs to eliminate space for 16 gigabit RAM laptops, physical laptops, again, right? So when we're doing that, we're designing. Give me 1 second as I grab my design here for my virtual machines, right? So when I design these this diagram here, you have to remember something. I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm going to go to my uh, machine here, and I want to take this laptop here, right? And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to add that to my drawing, um, in my drawing here. So just remember when we're talking about um, okay, I don't want to copy art. So I'm going to take the pictures here. All right, I'm going to take the design here. So just remember something when you're on your physical laptop. Um, if you look at my drawing here, you're on your physical laptop, right, as an admin, and you're basically logging in to our hypervisor here, our VM Workstation Pro, and you're creating this machine, this infrastructure here, right? So you're actually creating these, right? So today we're going to be creating these two machines. If you haven't, I'm going to show you how to create one machine. I'm going to create my ESXi hypervisor, right, and install the ISO disk to that. So you'll kind of see on how to do that. But just remember, our in this environment here, you want to install your AAA, your Active Directory Domain Services, which has your AAA there, and that includes your authorization, authentication, and auditing. So AAA is important in Active Directory, especially when you're spearheading the architecture, the design of the infrastructure that you're looking to build. So we also talk about let me zoom in a little bit, guys, for you. We also talk about the DNS role, right? And then our forward lookup zones. I've actually talked about that in other classes, right? So make sure that you guys have that installed. You guys also want to install DHCP if you want to provide DHCPs to your VMs, right, for testing purposes. And that's just for automatic IP assignment and scopes. So ensure that your scopes are set. I've showed you guys how to do that. And we're also going to use this as our software send. Again, your environment could be different. You don't really need, you can have a file server for software send, right? As long as it's on one machine for now, just to alleviate space, right? And then what we'll do is we'll also create 3 disks, and I'm going to create these 3 disks. I'm not going to create these 3 disks now, but eventually what we want to do is we want to create 3 disks, right, for our software send, right? Go back there. So I'm going to create 3 disks, right, for software, right? So this is going to be my 3 extra disks that I'm going to be creating for software send, right? And then these ones I want to connect to my LUNs, my shared disks, my logical unit numbers. Um, paste that. Okay. So again, these are going to be, this is going to be my software SAN, right? And I'm going to name these however I want. They can have 500 GB. They can have 500 GB or less or more or whatever you want it to be. But in this instance, I'm going to give it 500 GB each, or a terabyte each. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be using the full 500, especially if your laptop, isn't equipped for that yet, right? So we're gonna eventually do that and kind of get the ball rolling here. Um, Copy that. Let me make that here. Okay, so this is gonna be our software SAN, right? And this is actually going to be, and I'm going to take the shape here, and I'm gonna connect this to our hypervisor, right? Or shared disks, right? And this is going to be, let's see, let's just choose a color here for now. All right. I'm going to give it the same color that I want. Again, you guys can know what that means. So again, this is going to have, I'm going to insert text here, and this will be 500 GB, right? Or plus 500 GB plus. Right? It doesn't matter what you put. But eventually, your SAN servers are gonna have, multiple rows of disks, right? And each disk can be like in terabytes. Like we're talking about from gigabytes to terabytes, right? So understand how that works and what you're using it for. Um, you're gonna have to know how that option is for your company or whatever your company has existing, right? So you have to kind of know how that works so too. Okay. Right. And I'm going to be doing that here. And I mean, making this a little bit smaller, right? That. And again, same thing here, 500 GB. Again, this could be terabytes. Doesn't matter. Right? But I'm just showing you guys how that looks, how that's going to look like in a long haul, right? So be aware of that, and then we're going to install the software SAN inside our main thing. Again, that could be a separate machine, but in this two VM machine, that's what we're going to have. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller for you guys here. All right. Okay. So that's what's going to happen. And again, that's going to connect to our physical. Oh, we're going to connect to that to our physical LANs, right? LANs. Okay. Just so you guys have an idea of how that's going to look. And this is going to be our wired system here, right? Connecting to our LANs. It doesn't matter where it is as long as it communicates with each other, right? And that'll be um, given data that'll give our data towards our physical LANs, right? And our data stores, which sit on top of our VMFS, right? So this hypervisor, again, it is a hypervisor too. Yeah, it's installed on a, it's not really installed on top of an operating system, but it can be, right? It's used for our training environments, right? We're going to install this on a bare metal machine, right? So this is acts as a hypervisor one and not a hypervisor two. Again, in professional environments or in production environments, yeah, we want to be able to use it. This is actually known as a hypervisor one, right? Um, right? Because it's not installed on the operating system, the operating system isn't a Windows base. We call this Photon, which is a different operating system. A little different than what you guys are used to seeing, right? So understand how that works. When we talk about hypervisors, yeah, our VMware hypervisor product name is ESXi. Our Microsoft product name is Hyper-V, right? So those are the two hypervisors that we're kind of showing you. And we are going to architect a 2 VM machine. So I want you guys to be prepared for that, especially when we're designing those aspects, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save this drawing here so I don't lose this part, because I'm going to need this part. I'm going to cut out of that, and I'm going to remove this red stuff here and just paste it back. Delete this part. I don't need the drawings. I'm going to remove all the drawings here. Don't need the check marks. So again, going back to our design aspect of it, right? That's what our machines are going to be like, and it offers these roles, right? It offers AAA, it offers our DNS, and it offers our zone, right? And it offers our DHCP. So this is our internal DNS, right? And again, our physical disk it doesn't run off of NTS, right? It's a little different than what you guys are used to seeing. And that'll run off of our VMFS file system, right? And I'll explain to you what that is as we discuss how to install these hypervisor. Again, you know, it just physically works on a hypervisor. It's just a partition, the VMFS, right? It's a usable area of the physical disk, and we usually call that a data store. So when the physical disk is formatted with the file system, right, it's called MFS, right? And the partition that's created within or on top of it, it's called the data store. Okay. So understand how that works. Um, Again, making sure that you guys understand that is crucial when it comes turn to designing your machines, right? So I'm going to take a snapshot of this, and I'm going to post this new snip, right? I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on my right. Okay, so understand how that's gonna work. We'll see it live as we move along. I don't know if I'm gonna get to the software side of it. I just want to show you guys how to install a hypervisor so that you guys are ready to go with that. And I'm gonna create a machine. You guys should be able to create 2 machines or more. Again, the more hypervisors are meant for active passive, and it's especially um, for high availability, low balancing, and failover, right? So it's always good to have more hypervisors as you can test it, and you'll have the same data synchronized in between the 2 hypervisors. But in this instance, if you don't have that much space, again, you need 8 GB to install the operating system, and then you can and then shut it down, and then change the GB to 2 GB, and same goes for 32, right? When we talk about the ESXi, they're light machines. You can go up to 4 GB on a 16 GB laptop, right? So your laptop here, right, should kind of have 16 GB or 32. I kind of designed that and kind of show you how that works. The more memory you have, the better it is, right? The more CPU you have, the better it is, right? So these machines can have more CPUs. It'll handle more CPUs, right? It all depends on your architecture and how you want to design it. In this aspect, I'm going to show you guys how to use a 2 machine and acting as an active, right? Okay, so going back to our hypervisor, here's my server, a server that runs 2022, right? That could be 2019 or 2022. In this instance, I'm using 2022. So I want you guys to install that, right? This is a test box for me, right, that I've used for a long time. And again, this one here, I designed it up almost a month and a half ago, right? So it's still working in my environments. It's testing a lot of things that I needed to test, and I can remove this as soon as. So if you guys were following me, again, I have a 2 data center um, environment, right? In my local environment, my domain. Again, you would have 2 or 3 or more domains or root domains, right? In your environments, and 2 or more root domain controllers or 2 or more replica DCs, which would offer your AAA, your DNS, and your global catalog. In this instance, again, I have Montreal and Ontario, which are two provinces within. You can have Vancouver, Calgary, whatever you want. Even if I want to add it again, I just go here and I add a new OU, and this one I can call it British Columbia. Right. And again, I want to make sure I protect the container, so that'll be that. And again, I'll have my three provinces here, right? Ontario and Quebec, right? So I'll add Quebec into here. Um, Again, if you're in other parts of the city, make sure you have your cities there and data residency as closest as you as possible, so that you're not jumping from city to city or acquiring different cities, right? Because it does cost a lot of money when you're running these data centers and you're synchronizing the data from from North America or South America even to like Europe or to Africa, right? So it does cost a lot of money, right? So I'm going to create a two OUs just to kind of degrade that uh, in terms of provinces, because I want to degrade the provinces there, right? And then within my three, should be creating it in a second here. Yeah, hopefully it created it. I guess it didn't create it. It's taking a little bit of time. Let's go to the bottom here. Let's do a refresh to see if anything has changed here. No. So let's go back to our data center, and I'm going to create a new organizational unit, and I'm going to call this Quebec, right? And I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to move my uh, OU um, with the move button here, and I'm just going to go to my Canadian data center, and I'm going to move it to Quebec. Now you'll notice that I have a move object error. That's fine. We just need to have the delegation, or we can set permissions for that within our object, right? We can remove the accidental deletion because it makes sense. You need to understand that how it's created there, right? So we can now move this into our Canadian data center, and we want it in Quebec. And I should be able to move now without an issue, right? So if we open up that, our Montreal uh, OU is now moved, and I can click that back and then protect that object. Again, this is all through data delegation control too, so you can also set up your delegation and add specific users and groups. In this instance, your admin or your domain admins, right? And then hit OK, and then add, right? And then cancel, like that, and then next. And again, I can delegate whatever I want. I can modify the membership groups. I can create, delete, manage user accounts. I should be able to create, delete, or manage groups, right? Right, which is that, or we can customize it and hit next. And then we can do computer objects, right? For example, right? And we can create selected and delete selected or whatnot, right? So I can create and delete here, selected objects in this folder, and then click next. Again, this is sort of like a full permissions here, right? And then click finish. So I should be able now to move forward however I want. It's just to kind of show you how this is done. Um, Again, we are going to close that here again. So I degraded that, and then in our US data center, we have our two um, we should also have our shared folders here, which I've created different shared folders, right? And I'm able to now create shared folders like test folders, right, within here and share them within my network, right? So within this shared folder, I have our Quebec, and um, I can also add our different containers within here, right? So if I want Quebec to have access to that, right, and the users within it, or I can have users within here administer those folders there, right? So they have access to that, right? And they are managed by whoever, right? And again, we can protect these folders, right? Hit OK, right? We can actually, you know, properties of that, and we can give a different control here for the specific group, right? So I can add a specific object or a computer or a service account, right? So in this instance, I want Ontario, right? I want to go back to my locations, right? Okay. Sometimes it doesn't work, but what I do is go to the advanced section and I just find now, and I should be able to find um, that group based on the results that I found. And I can find like here cubes. I can find all the right. I don't need the service accounts in this one here. Right. So then I hit OK, advanced. Right. And a find now. Find now. And this should have all the roles, right? And different users that I want for that. And hopefully it should have all the groups, the security groups that we created, right? So we should be able to find the specific security groups. If we scroll down here, there should be a few security groups that I created, right? So we can give it the different security groups there too. Um, so I don't need this. I'm going to delete it. So because that, I'm going to open this. Should be nothing here, but I want to go to the properties. I'm going to go to the objects. I want to unprotect that just in case. Hit OK. Right click and then delete. I want to delete it. I do. Right. And then again, that should have all my things. And I can actually assign the user groups, security groups that I want, right? Within here, I can assign that or just assign roles, different roles to that, right? And have those specific attributes and whatever I need um, set for that as well too. So if I want to set the display name to finance department, I can just change that to finance department, right? Then hit OK, right? Apply, and then hit OK. So just to kind of give you an idea of what a DC looks like and how it works. Again, these are my two data centers. Again, these are my domain controllers. I can have two domain controllers, which is what I want. Sometimes I can have a read-only domain controller. And again, that's what we want in real environments and production environments, right? So we'll have the replica domain controller or that replica domain, right? Running on a WAN, right? So when there's two or more services running on that WAN, right? We can have different child domains, right? If we want, um, you know, we can set up the environment. So as long as the DCs or the domain controllers can talk with to each other within a specific time limit, I think by default in an inside a LAN, it can be up to 45 seconds or up to a minute, and that can be again changed or modified in our settings, right? So again, I'm not going to show you guys how to install ADDS and how to install all those other roles, but kind of understand that's how that is. So let's go ahead and create our new virtual machine, right? I'm going to create a typical one, right? And I'm going to click next. And in this case, I'm going to install ESXi 7 or later, right? And I'm going to click next. So in this instance, I want to and I'm going to be testing, changing the location. Just ensure that you're changing it and not saving it to a OneDrive, right? That's the worst thing you could possibly do. So this one here is going to be my ESXi, uh, right? 01, right? And then our date today, which is what we created it, right? Again, I created so many of these. I like to create them by date so that I know how it is. You don't have to. And again, this is going to be on our Canadian data center, so I want to ensure that I have it in our data centers, right? Our Canadian data center, right? Um, so that's going to be that machine. And again, I'm going to create a folder path, and you guys can do that as well too, right? I want that folder path to be called that. And I'm going to click next. So in this one here, the recommended size shows that I don't care what it is. I could put 250, I could put 200. It all depends on my, um, what my physical disk is going to hold. I just need to run the software from any location, so it's going to hold a lot. This machine, like I said, could be anything. I'm just going to give it 250 for now. That doesn't mean that we're going to be using it, right? And we're going to use we're going to split the virtual disks into multiple files, right? So when we're talking about, you know, creating a VM, right? And VM kernels and how, exploring the different features of that hypervisor, right? You know, and knowing how to build them, the appliance or building just the hypervisor. When we're transferring files, I'm gonna go back to my drawing board here. So if I'm transferring files here, right? You know, from one location to another, again, it's going to be stored within our LUNs, right? By default, you don't want to store it on a physical disk. You want to store it on a SAN solution or our SAN solution, right? Physical SAN solution, but you also want to store it on top of our VMFS system within this hypervisor. We're going to install on top of a data store. So I'm going to show you how to upload IOSs and files and VMX files here, and we're not going to store it onto the physical disk, but we're going to be storing it onto the data store, right? And to get to the you're going to also need a virtual switch, right? And not a physical switch, but also a virtual switch. And we'll also talk about that as well too. So if I'm going to design that as well too, I also want to ensure that I also have um, a virtual switch, right? And then we also have a physical switch as well too, right? So let's go ahead and download that. Let's download a physical switch, right? So we're going to download physical switches, right? This could be Cisco, right? Could be Cisco Mariaki switch. Could just any switch that you want it to be, right? So if we're looking at the different images, right, we just need a switch. It doesn't matter what switch we have, but we need a switch. And again, I don't know. Let's see what we can have. We'll ask for. We'll go to the market and we'll purchase a 24 port switch. Okay. So we'll pretend that we're going to the market and we want to purchase a uh, 24 port switch, right? And that's going to be our switch, our physical switch. So I'm going to post that here, right? And that's our physical switch, right? So we'll put that there for now. And then we also have something called we have our virtual switch, right? And for this instance, I'm going to use a octagon or I can use a diamond, doesn't matter what you want to use. So we'll use a uh, octagon for that. And I'll draw my virtual switch here. So this is going to be my virtual switch, right? I'll make this a little bit smaller. Okay. And I'm going to give it, we'll give it, doesn't matter what color we give this, but we'll give this a green color, right? So that'll be our green color or blue color, doesn't matter, right? But again, that's going to be connected. If we go back to our drawing here, again, that'll be connected to one of the ports, right? Right. To the physical NIC card, right? And then from the opposite NIC card, we're going to connect it to um, we're going to connect that to their V switch, right? So I'm going to get another cable, right? And that'll go to our our virtual switch, right? Just to kind of give you an idea of how that's going to work. For now, again, I'm going to try to create, you know, videos on this, different videos at different times. But I just want to get you guys to understand how that works, right? But for now, I want to, you know, understand that this machine, oh, and then this machine also is physical NIC card is also connected to that switch, right? So we're going to draw that as well too, and that's to the whatever port you want to give it to. So let's say in this instance, it's going to port 2, right? Or port 1, and then this one is going to port 2. Okay. The color of our cable today is blue for data. So we'll use blue for data. The data cable is sponsored by blue. Uh, and then this also as well too. The internal ones are sponsored by blue. Um, right, so blue for data. I'm also going to change this to blue as well too. Well, this is more of an internal, our internal color wiring, right? Networking is sponsored by Great today, okay? So this is our V switch, and by default, it automatically creates one for you, but just to know that as well too. Just gonna draw that out. Okay. And the more hypervisors you add, the more V switches you have, right? The V switches you're gonna add. So when a physical disk is formatted, again, when we talk about the physical disks, it's formatted with a file system VMFS, and I think I spoke to you about that already. But again, on top of this, it lays our data store, and our data store is going to um, connect to our LUNs, right? And our physical or shared disk. And our switch is what we're going to be using to connect to our VMs, right? So I'm going to grab another one of these, right? I'll copy that and paste it. And I'm going to move that to our VM machine, right? That's going to go from our V switch to our VM. And that's our V disk and our VNIC we call. So I'm going to draw that out for you guys as well, so that you guys know that. That's our VNIC, and then we also have um, our virtual disks, right? And our virtual disks will not sit on top of that when we're creating, and I'll show you guys how to do that. It's not going to sit on top of our physical disk, but it'll sit on the LUNs. Okay, so that's that for now. Again, that's my drawing here. Again, we're just going to be using a two machine VM just to test it. In my courses, I use 5 machines, and again, you can follow me with that. Or if you are interested in classes, let me know. Okay, so we are going to give it a minimum of 250 disk, and we're going to split it. So if we are transferring files from one area to another, we're splitting it into 4 GB disks and not one physical file that takes long to transfer. Okay, so I'm going to click next, right? I will customize it. My VMs, I can give it as much as I want, but in this instance, I'm giving it 4, and I'm giving it 2 CPU. I will give it a second network card, right? I'll add a second network card, and that one's going to be our VMnet, right? Network or just net, right? And then this one here, I'm going to remove it as we don't need internet right now because I'm not really downloading anything. And I'll explain to you what that's for. So again, I can create multiple network adapters for many reasons. Again, I'm not using my second network adapter for NAP, so I'm going to delete that. Okay. If you have multiple disks, you can accelerate the 3D graphics if you want, but in this case, we don't need to. We can auto detect, and again, we can also use the file image. So our file image is going to be our ESXi 8. We're going to try that. I have 8 or 7, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to try the 8 now, which I also have as well too. So I'm going to close that, right? And I'm going to finish for now. and we're going to run this for the first time, 8. I'm going to run VMware 8 on this machine. So this is similar to this. I'm going to power on the machine first, right? Or again, we can right click and we can power onto firmware, right? And give it a BIOS password. So in this instance, I'm going to give it a BIOS password. Okay. And boot this. Sorry, I'm not going to boot from the network, but I'm just going to boot it from the CD DVD, right? And then that'll load my ESXi installer. So as you can see, I'm installing my ESXi 8. If I look at my settings, what did I set it up as? My options. I didn't give it that. I don't want it. I'm not going to give it auto login. This one is running UEFI. I can change the firmware type if I want to BIOS, but I'm not going to. And these are my file locations. So here you go. I'm installing that right now for you guys. So I'm installing ESXi 8. This is the new version. So I'm installing that on this machine, on my um, two machine VM system, right? So if we go back to the drawing board and I go to my hypervisor here, right? This will have, I'm going to insert, shoot, I don't want to insert text. So this is going to be running ESXi 8. Okay? So let's go back to our drawing. I'm just going to put you guys on a brief hold and you guys can watch the rest as it runs. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back, guys. As you can see, just make sure that you consult with your VMware compatibility guide. I think that's really important that you guys do that. I want you guys to check to see if it is compatible with your systems. If it isn't, then you can always downgrade to that, right? So again, I'm going to post this in the notes here, right? And again, we'll post that here, right? So just compatibility is very important when we're talking about compatibility resources because especially when your compatibility ability ability resources, right? And know how to which is really important. So make sure ensure your device or machines are compatible for VMware uh, ESXi uh, ESXi 7 or 8. Again, in this instance, it's 8. So ensure that that's done correctly. Um, you know, we have to understand a few things here as well too. When we talk about designing your virtual machines. So again, when we're designing our virtual machines, you have to come. We have our domain controller, right? We have our domain controller, right? Controller, right? And then we have our ESXi machine, our ESXi hypervisor machine. And this one's a hypervisor one, right? But in this instance, because it's the test, we call it a hypervisor two, because it's not physically installed on top of an operating system. So this one is going to be installed on a bare metal machine. So we call this a hypervisor one, right? Okay. And understand that. We also want to understand about physical switches, right? Virtual switches. We talked about uh, physical NIC cards, right? And these are local to you. NTFS versus VMFS, right? LUNs, which are shared disks, right? So we need to know what that is. So that's also important too, especially when you're designing these machines. Um, so know that, right? So we're not going to really go too much into detail in this course, right? But just as an administrator, you should require knowledge about these components and resources and how they work together in your environment. So technically, in my environment, I want to ensure that so put headers here. So I'll do my headers here. Today's date. Okay. All right. And who am I? And that's me. So again, understand that because these are physically and I showed you throughout our pictures here and how you're logging in, right? You also want to talk about you know what software will you be using to host your VMs, right? So, is it VM Workstation Pro, or is it Oracle, right? Is it Hypervisor, Hyper-V for Microsoft? Um, you know, are you using KVMs, right? What else can we use here? Are you using Citrix, right? Are you using AWS, right? Or Microsoft, which is Hyper-V, right? So in this instance, I'm a fan of Workstation Pro. I've always been a fan of Workstation Pro. Again, Hyper-V is also great. I also have videos on how to create that. And if you do want to use Oracle's VirtualBox, right? So they did change VirtualBox. There is, and that's Manager, right? And then there's their KVM, your Citrix AWS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So this is going to be our two-tier, this is going to be our two-machine system, right? As I showed you guys here. So when we're talking about the domain controller, again, this is our two VM architecture. And again, you can have 16 GB laptop, physical laptop, up to infinity. So whatever you have, right? So you can have a 15, 32, right? Whatever, right? GB laptop, right? We're talking about RAM, right? This is also RAM when I talk about that, right? Up to terabytes, up to TBs, right? Terabytes. You can also show that you have a minimum of 8 CPUs, right? Because we are going to be using, we're all creating two machines, right? The more machines I create, the more CPUs it uses, right? So in this instance, we're going to use 4 out of the 8 cores, and a minimum of 500, let's say 500 GB of hard disk space, right? And that has to be SSD. If you do have it, it's great. It's faster, right? But again, when we're building these specific infrastructure, our architecture is again going to be 64-bit, right? 64-bit, and it's going to use if we go back to our machines, and we look at our architecture, so if I go back to my machines, these machines will be using, this machine here is going to be using the Scavenger. Right? It is going to be using an ACPI 64 base PC system. So that's our architecture for here today, right? Right. So that's our device, our hardware IDs. If we need to, anything that we need to do here, or we have any information, it's all here. So that's going to be our architecture, and that'll provide our specific instructions. So again, understand, what we're building it for and why we're building it. Um, give you a little bit of insight on that and stuff. Okay. So again, we have our two machines, and it's using ACPI 64-bit. Okay. So our two machines are there. We have a physical switch and a virtual switch. We also have a physical NIC card, and we have a virtual NIC card. We call it VNIC. VNIC. All right. We also have our physical disks, right? And our V disks, we call it. So understand the two differences, right? And then we also have our shared disks, which sit on top of our hypervisors, right? Across all hypervisors. So as we move along, again, understand the compatibility, because if it does not work, then you need to go through the guide and see if your system supports that, right? So I'm gonna hit enter, and hopefully this works. So let's go ahead and test it, see what happens now. If not, we'll install version 7. Um, so let's go back to our hypervisor here machine, and then I'm gonna hit enter, right? And then I'm gonna accept and continue the license agreement terms. So I'm gonna hit F11, and then this is gonna scan for available devices. So it'll take a few seconds here. Go ahead and install that. So it looks like it selects a disk. Any existing VMFS disks, 3 disks, will be automatically upgraded to VMMS 5, which is a newer system. A newer system, right? And again, anything that contains a VMFS partition will be noted by a star. or claimed by our vSAN. Again, vSAN only works with 3 hypervisors, so understand how that works, right? I just want you guys to know, if you guys like this, please like and subscribe it. I have a full course on this if you guys are interested. Just send me a message, add me to my WhatsApp group, send me a message one-on-one, and we can discuss options there. If you're looking for details, you hit F1. This is going to gather all the information, right? Right? And this will give us the information about the disks, right? And LUNs, IDs, if there are any, if anything is found, and then whatever path and information targets that you have set up and what data stores are it's connected to, that'll also be there too. So I hit OK for that. I want to ensure that I'm selecting that one in yellow. I'm not going to hit refresh. Yeah, I can hit refresh. Why not? F5 to refresh and then enter to continue. I'm going to choose the language for my keyboard, which is US default, and I'm going to click enter. And this is where I'm going to enter in my root password. And again, your root password should be uh, specific. Please write it down, don't forget it. And then if the passwords match, you can hit enter and then hit continue. So this is just saying that the CPU and this host are not supported by ESXi 8. So I'm just gonna you can override and force the install, but it's just not officially supported. I'm just gonna show you guys how to do it. So I'm gonna hit enter. Yeah, and then I'm gonna hit F11 to install. This will still install for you, so it's not a problem. We're gonna run the features that it has. So remember, looking at the compatibility is important, especially on this machines that we have here. So ESXi 8 is the latest ESXi version. So and there are other updates and patches that have been available already after this. So um, this is up to date. A lot of companies who haven't migrated yet and want to know how to migrate, again, please let me know if you guys are migrating, and I can, teach you guys how to do that. I another thing I also want to note is password vaults. There's a good application that I seen. I'm not sure if you guys heard of it, but it's called KeyPass. It's a great application if you guys want to use it. You guys are more than welcome to use that. And I'll show you where to find that KeyPass. It's called KeyPass password safe here. So that's the one you can install that and download this one. So here's the image for that. It's a great application. There's better applications that are out there, but KeyPass is pretty good. This is a free open software that you can download for Windows, right? And the newest version for that is, again, 2.571. We can download that here if you want, and then install it onto our machines, and that's where we can put our passwords. It's an application that you can use if you'd like, so that you can manage that. I'm going to go ahead and install that for you guys. Right, and then hit OK. Right, I'm going to hit accept, next, next. I will keep whatever I need to keep here. I don't really need it all, but again, you can, customize it if you'd like, or you can get the full installation or compact installation, but it doesn't matter. It's only 17 megabytes. You're going to associate that with the file extension. And then I'm not going to create oh yeah, I can create a desktop shortcut if I want, but it's up to you. and then click install. So this is an application. This will keep all your passwords. This is good to have. It's an open source, lightweight, easy to use password manager. There's also cloud version ones that you guys can use, but this is one that I think is not bad. You know, it depends on what you want. There's paid versions if you'd like as well too, and let's enable the check here. So again, this is where you can, create new databases for that, right? And then save the database and doesn't matter where you save it, but you'd create a master key for that, and that master key would have the information that you need. So I'm going to give it a master password. Again, show you guys how to that. Um, give it a give me 1 second. Right, and then I'm going to repeat the password. Again, it looks like it's you can do this as long as you want. This consists of one or more following components. Again, it'll specify if you lose one of the components, you won't be able to open the database. So ensure that you're aware of what this is and where this is located, right? So that's very important. Okay. And again, this is all up to you. Again, the source uses data that can of the current Windows user account. It's up to you if you want to add that. I'm just showing you how to quickly create that for you guys. Right? And again, you need a stronger password, so I'm going to make this a little bit longer. That's fine. So let's see what happens now. All right, so it says that it's 2 week. Okay, so let's add a it's here. Okay, see what happens now. Okay, there we go. So it looks like it's been done properly here. So I've gone ahead and created that. Not a problem, right? And again, this will have all the encryption and whatnot that I need, right? And I'll hit OK for now. I'll skip that. And again, this is where I can keep all my general passwords, temporary ones that I need, right? So we can create one for within the general, right? And or we can add here one. We can you know, create one, right? See what we can do here. Add an entry. So I can add an entry here and I call this my ESXi, right? And then I can put my username, right? And then the password that I wanted to give. You can add notes in here and expiration dates. It's up to you, right? So in this case, I want it to expire tomorrow, so that'll expire tomorrow. So I'll put tomorrow's date, 19th, right? And that'll be advanced, and that'll be done and added to that. So again, if there's anything else that you want to add, you're more than welcome. Then you just hit OK. And again, there's my thing, and I can go ahead and copy the password and copy the username as liked, right? So that's a good application for you to use. That'll keep all your passwords locally, and you can manage these or generate password lists here if you'd like. You guys are more than welcome to take a look at it. Okay, so let's go back to our 8. So our 8 has already installed, right? I'm going to remove I'm going to remove this, right, and use our physical drive for now as we're done. And then I'm going to hit within here and just hit enter to reboot. So I'm now rebooting the machine. Now, in order to read our root our machine here, you know, we can configure the different settings within here once it's done, um, as you can see now, or we can set it up to, you know, open up locally here. So all I need to do is, you know, give it um, my DHCP for that, right? So I'll have to set that up, and I'll also have to set this up um, through my DNS, right? So I have to give it a different IP for that and set that up that way. It's a little different than what you're used to seeing on the Windows side. So this is all done through a DCUI, it's called. So this is a direct console unit interface. So it's not, we call it in our Windows environment, um, we call it a network settings, right? But in here we call it the DCUI. So that's something that you guys want to understand and know. So when we're connecting it, again, um, we're going to connect that way. As this load, I'm just going to put you on a quick pause and I'll be right back. So here's our ESXi again, as it's um, looks like it's complete now. Um, Again, to customize the settings, we can restart the machine or customize the settings. I think it's my F2. So if I click in here and I press F2, I can now log into this, right, and put the password in and enter, right? So this is where we set our configure our password. We also have lockdown mode. We have our management. We have our test network. We have our system logs. We have our troubleshooting options. We have our support, right? And this is where we can create our machines here. I didn't give it an IP, but I can if I want to. It's not a problem. I can create this later. I can create this suffix later if I want to. Um, Again, this is just runs off of DHCP. So for me to log into it locally, I have to give it a static IP. So, I'll give it a static IP. Give me one sec. So then let's go back to my drawing board here. Um, so it doesn't matter what I give it. I can give it a IP, right? So if we go back to So I'm going to set it up as not dynamic, but I'm going to click into this with a space bar or enter. And then if I click into this, right, I should be able to go down now. And then space will select it. And then I can go down and select this, right? And then go down and then give it my DHCP. So my DHCP would be, I would set it up as what I want it to be. So in this instance, I'm giving it, right? And then I'm going to give it, let's say 7, just because I like it. And then this one here, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to give it, right? I'm going to give it that and then hit OK. Right. So that's done. And I'm also going to configure the DNS configuration. And I'm going to give it a DNS. So my DNS, I'm going to use the following DNS. So spacebar and then enter. Oh, spacebar. Right. And then move this DNS. So my DNS, right, would be that. Right. Depends on the private IP that you want to use. Right. And then there's no alternate DNS, but I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to call this ESXi 01 CND. Okay. And then hit enter. Okay. And then I'm going to go to that and I'm going to change my suffix because we need to change our suffix. All right. So that's going to be that. And I'm going to hit enter. And then enter. And then I'm going to enter, enter. And then I'm going to escape out of that. Right. And I'm going to apply the changes and restart the network manager. So I'm going to say yes. And then hit enter. Right. I'm going to restart the system. F11. I want to restart the host. Okay, so let's go back to our machine here and create the DNS for this machine. So I'm going to create a forward lookup zone. Oh, sorry. I'm going to create a forward lookup zone on FLZ. All right. And I'm going to give it a. So if I'm going here, I'm going to create a new host record and I called it this, right? So it's going to be my first in our Canadian data center, right? And my IP that I gave it. Seven, right? And then, okay. And then hit okay. And then, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. So it'd be 100. So the, okay, oops, properties. Apologies, guys. 100. Apologies. Apply, hit OK. So if I go to my reverse lookup zones, it should be there now. Yeah, refresh. Okay, good. So I'm going to refresh the machine, refresh. I'm going to log into here. I'm going to go back to my settings here, put my password in. Hit OK. Oh, hit OK. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Copy password. To Hold on. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Okay, so if I go to configure management network, it looks like it didn't take the option, so we'll do this again here. So it's got the right NIC. Um, it has optional. Oh, it's because okay. So I need to give it a different NIC. Okay, so if I go here, guys, sorry, my apologies, guys. It must be on the same VMnet. So I'm going to right click settings, and I'm gonna change it. Doesn't matter what you give it, you can always change this after. For no particular reason, I'm gonna give it 10. Um, so optional, this is an optional set if you want. That we're not really creating VLANs, but again, it's similar to VMnet because we've already created it. I'm just gonna hit escape. Right, and I'm gonna configure my IPv4 machine, and I don't want to use dynamic. I want to use static. Right? And I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to delete the last, right? Oh, I'm going to delete everything here. Okay. I'm going to give it my, so, right? That's what I wanted. I'm going to keep it uniform. That's okay. That's okay. And I give it that. Okay. Um, Default gateway, right? Okay. And this, that's not set. That I want to change to use the following DNS and host name. I'm going to press spacebar, and then I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put that there's no alternate, right? And I'm going to um, mark that and delete that. I'm going to call it this, right? So this is what I called it. It's going to be my Canadian data center. And then I'm going to hit OK for enter, right? So that's all set. And then I'm going to create my custom DNS suffix, right? My Canadian data center. And I'm going to hit OK. So that's good. Um, that's changed. So if I can go back here, and I think everything is set for now. Again, you can change this at any time, you know. It depends on your infrastructure and what you use it for, but in this instance, we're going to use um, this specific for no particular reasons. This is just for testing, okay? So I'm going to hit escape, right? And I'm going to say yes, right? And I'm going to escape, right? And I'm going to shut down and restart. So I'm going to hit F12, right? And then put my password in. You'll notice that it says local domain because, oh, I'm going to escape that here. Sorry, guys. My local domain is, my apologies. That's a boo-boo here. So if I log in here again, um, sorry guys. So you're uh, okay. What do you mean? This is ready. What do you mean? Oh, okay. So, okay, so that's right, that's right, that's right. My apologies, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and my host name, my DNS suffix. Um, my DNS suffix is my IP, so just give me 1 second. So if I go to my DNS properties or lookup zones, this so be this one here. Properties. I'm going to copy this. All right. And the record is there. So I'm going to test that after, guys. I'm going to ping that. I'm going to paste that. Doesn't make it. Okay. Again, that would be my, right? Would be my, so that's going to be my suffix, DNS suffix. And then I hit OK. Okay. Okay. Again, I can use short, I can use whatever I want, but I'm going to use the fully qualified domain name. I could have just cut it off if I wanted to, but again, that's what I want it to be. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to hit OK, hit enter, and I'm going to say yes. Okay. And I'm going to escape, right? And I'm going to reboot the machine. Okay. All right. So once this loads, I should be able to now log in from a machine here, from any machine or client machine, as long as it's connected. So I should be able to connect to this machine. I'm just going to take this here. Again, I can give it an IP name if I want. I can give it whatever I want to call it. And that'll be my domain host machine here. All right, it's got my reverse lookup zone, which is what I want. Okay, it's all good. Okay, so let's go ahead and wait for this machine to finish. So once this loads, you should be able to log in now. Doesn't matter what browser you use, but you should be able to click into that. And then give it the UI. So here's my ESXi host client, and I should be able to log in with my account here. And the reason why we weren't able to log in is because I put and okay, should work. If not, I gotta restart the machine. I have to create another machine. That's great. Awesome. That's great. All right, perfect. Um, Okay, so then I won't be able to remove lockdown mode either. So let me see if I can log back into this machine here, customize. Then. Okay. Maybe because of the lockdown mode, that's not letting me go in. I've locked it down. I don't know why it's doing that, but that might be because the lockdown mode is doing that. I don't want it to do that. Uh, I'll use lockdown mode. Oh, there we go. So I need to configure lockdown mode. I'm gonna change that. Take the lockdown mode out. Um, this is common. Uh, so lockdown mode is prevention, right? But I think I made a mistake in my password. Uh, Surprised. Um, so, so I changed that. That's good. So I set that password there. So let's go ahead and exit. Right? Let's see what happens now. So that should work now. There we go. All right, so again, apologies guys about that. Took a little bit of time. So here's my ESXi again. It happens. It is what it is. But again, here's my uh, ESXi host client. So we're in, and this is where we can create our storage, our data storage here, right? And create two different ones, increase the capacity, register the VM, browse that data actions and whatnot. So I want to thank you guys again. And this is where we can create our virtual switches, our physical NIC, our NIC cards, our TCP IP stacks, our rules, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We will create a virtual machine. I'm going to create a virtual 11 machine in our ESXi 8. So again, I want to thank you for joining this video. I hope this video was informative. Um, Again, my apologies for all that. It seemed like I locked it. I should have unlocked it before. but we resolved that issue. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to message me on WhatsApp or message me on the number that's going to be below the description of the video. And thanks again. Hope this video was really informative. So in our next video, I'm going to be installing a virtual machine. I'm going to create a new virtual machine, and I'll show you the steps on how to do that. And we're going to be using our new Windows 11 24H2. So thanks again, and talk to you guys soon.